but today is about, as a nice title, as a God, developing a unbeatable startup mindset and scaling your business. And I think the saying I have in the bottom of the front page here is that it's okay to believe in yourself, also in Denmark. And I think it's actually one of the things that main reason why I'm here today, because I think we need to embrace that we in Denmark are super good and strong entrepreneurs, but also that we need to set the mindset a bit above the bar we have today, and try to look outside of the borders of Denmark and see where we can catch up with some new ideas and mindset from the outside of. So just a short outline of what we were going through today. So shortly about me and what I have been doing, Customize as a company. Then I will come into the main topic, which is how to develop a winning mindset. And it's not that I have a long education in doing this. This is basically things I have learned from my time the last 10 years and have been through and with a lot of successful people where I have learned a lot of things. What we have been doing, especially Customize, about scale and develop your startup, and then also to create a high performance culture with the right mindset. Then I have a couple of questions you need to have to set up the ambitiousness for your company, and it's a couple of questions that I ask myself all the time. I do ask everybody in the company, but it's also about asking other founders when I talk to them on a weekly basis. I have a couple of key learnings with me, and then at the end I have 3 advices that I use myself again every day, and I think it's things that I hope you guys will maybe take with you and ask yourself once in a while when you kind of feel like you need to remember my face and have good advice. So, first of all, my name is Kristoffer Degn, and I am, as introduced, a co-founder and CCO of Customize.io. So we are a venture-backed SaaS company that is founded first in Aarhus, but later on migrated over to Copenhagen. Before this, I was an e-commerce manager in a company called Fertile. So Fertile was a kind of a company where we tried to do a similar thing to Rocket Internet. A lot of different web shops. We had 12 at that time. I was responsible for 6 of them in Denmark, Sweden, and Norway. We got acquired by Matas back in 2018 and was actually their first competitor buyer. Later on, they have done a couple of extra. And today, Fertile is around 250 employees. I came in right after they were in the Danish television called Beecon in the first season. And we did go from 12 employees to around 150 while I was there. Later on, I got over in a company called Chefmate, which is backed by primary some of the old Just Eat guys, Jesper Buch, Morten Larsen, Rune Risum, which is also in the Hungry game today, where I got hired as a CMO, and afterwards, after 8 months, I got promoted to the CEO of the company. I was there for only a year because I met Martin at a nightclub. I didn't know Martin before it, but we met up in a nightclub in Madrid, where we had an interesting talk about the whole industry. And Martin introduced me shortly to the idea, and I told him that if we can do that, we're going to change the whole marketing world. So he got me bought in from there on, and that means that after a year, I jumped out to found Customize back in the summer of 2020. And then at the end, I guess some of you maybe wondered why there is these 3 axes. So it's not that we're going that I forgot to put in the number, or we're going to raise a seed round that do contain a 3 digits number, but we're going to raise a new seed round now. We're actually doing it as we speak, and I'm really looking forward to tell the rest of you how it went. If some of you are following me on LinkedIn, I guess you probably will see it in a month or 2. So really looking forward to that, and I promise you guys, it's going to be fucking awesome. Sorry for the language, but it's really interesting. So shortly facts in what Customize is. So Customize is a customer data platform, and it can really fast go into sound a bit complicated, but it's a software that is built to help e-commerce business in consolidating data from all sources and then analyzing into a single customer view. So understanding your customers way better. And then at the end, since we're talking the SMB industry, it's about helping them activate the data to make more data-driven decisions overall. So in fact, what we have done so far in the first 6 months of launching the product, we hit a ARR on 500,000 K. We got after 10 months at that point the biggest pre-seed round I could find in Denmark. We are backed by Pre-Seed Ventures, a Danish venture fund. We raised over 30 million DKK our first year. We are today. We actually 30 employees today after 18 months. And then at last, we are the only Danish company in a new Facebook program that got launched this summer, where it's only 60 companies in the whole world that have been chosen for it. And of course, that is kind of into the data space. It's not necessarily everybody that knows how unique this is, but it's super, super awesome for us. And we do get some insights into Facebook and how they work with data more than kind of the rest of the world. Of course, the 59 other in the program do as well. But so that is, of course, something that is interesting for us. And again, it's also about making a blueprint of what we are doing actually do make sense for the industry. But let's jump into what it's all about today. So it's not that, as I said, it's not that I have a long education in understanding or how to build a mindset in a specific way. For me, it has always been about who I am and what I came from. So one of the things that I learned while I was in first with all these 6 different webshops was that I needed to find a place to work where I love to go up every morning and go to work. And it caught me when I started Customer that I have been working there for 5 years, and not one single day I didn't want to go to job. And I know that there will be somebody that's saying, is that possible? Can you do that? I didn't have a sick day. I actually did have one because of a car crash, but I didn't have a sick day. And it turns out for me when we started Customer that I wanted to change things for what we normally are talking about going to work. So typically Monday is the worst day of the week for a lot of people. And what we decided from the start, just to kind of change the mindset of people, that we wanted to say that Monday needs to be the best day of the week. It was not possible for me and Martin to put in and say, okay, every day needs to be the best day. So we just transformed it into saying Monday needs to be the best day of the week. And the whole reason for that was that we have the longest time till it's going to be weekend again, which means we have the most time to execute on things and just move our company ahead of the curve. So creating that culture will also mean that when you wake up on Monday, your culture, your employees and coworkers, they will beat your competitors no matter what. So today what I'm doing on a regular basis is that I'm getting up 5 a.m. o'clock. And the 5 a.m. club, I guess the most of you have heard of it. It's the same with, I think, the Rockies. That's 4 a.m. That's a bit too early for me. But 5 a.m. For me is just about going up earlier than all my competitors. So it's more like setting yourself ahead of them and saying, okay, I'm up before them and I'm working a bit harder than them. You know, it's all about putting yourself in that position where you actually believe in these things yourself. So when you get that Monday is the best day of the week, which all your competitors doesn't have it like that. And the second thing is that you also are up before them. That is going to make a difference, believe me. So how you develop this kind of winning mindset is not something you do like a miracle. It's just about changing things in how your thoughts are doing. So it's all created by you and yourself. You're only having a battle with yourself. So some of the things when I am hiring new employees, when I'm hiring new leaders, is that we are only focusing on that you need to do what you are good at, what you can be the best at. So I often have this question saying, okay, what can you be the best in the whole world to do? Because we have like all these world champions in different kind of things. And I actually believe that every single person in the whole world have something they can be the best at. So for myself, for example, of course, when you do have a startup, you need sometimes to do things you're not the best at, and some things that not necessarily you think is fun. But it's all about starting to putting yourself into the mindset of saying, okay, how fast can we get to a point where I'm not need to do the things I'm not good at? Because if you're only doing things you're good at, that will make progression, and you will only hire people that are good at the things that they should do. That will also mean that the progression on the things you don't like will also move way faster. The second thing is, I guess, the things that we in Customize have won the most on is that we from the start put it on to have big dreams. So actually, before we had raised any funding, before we had started developing in the product, we started saying, okay, we want to be a unicorn. Or I did. Martin just said he will have 5,000 customers, but it's basically the same. So from our point of view, it was all about putting the bar as high as possible. Because if we started putting in saying, okay, we want to be just a 100 million company, I guess it's going to be pretty hard to go over that. So it's all just about saying, okay, are we only going to get halfway to this? It will still be amazing. So it's about dream big, because it also gives you an opportunity to attract talent people, because they like to do it. They like to be a part of something big. So I think we are living in a culture in Denmark where we are seeing an increase in dreaming bigger, because it's not that hard to get across borders anymore. It's easier to have a Danish company selling goods in Germany, selling in the United States, selling in the UK, and it's just about saying, okay, what is the difference between you and the ones that are sitting in the United States? There is no difference. The only thing is who are willing to win the most. And I think if you start putting the boundary up as high as possible, you will get far than a lot of different people. And then the last thing on how you start in this process is, if you start having a positive mindset, you will last longer. It will be easier. The stamina you will have in the process is going to be more well spent. So if you always are looking, as I'm usually saying, that if you're only looking after all the holes in the cheese, we are not getting that much cheese. So it's better to find the cheese that there is there, because that's going to give you something to move ahead. So I think it's also about, if you're going into my LinkedIn profile, I'm never telling when things go wrong in Customize. Of course, things are going wrong. It's not that I'm saying we are 100% perfect, but I'm more kind of into a situation where I'm not getting driven more in the right direction of telling all the things that we're doing wrong. It's kind of like the same as when I went home from school, and my mom always asked me, why is it that I'm not coming home and telling when it's not going that well? And I'm like, oh, what would you like to do with it? Is I'm not going to be happy about it. I guess you're not going to be happy either. So I think this about putting yourself in a positive mindset will also give you a possibility to see opportunities. And it's about not finding when you're having a startup, find something to do with it, because otherwise you're going to be too colored by yourself. And the good thing between me and Martin is sitting over here, that's why I'm pointing, is that Martin is more realistic than I am. So my mindset is super positive. Martin's is as well, but mine get to a point where it can be naive. But it's also pushing the boundaries for what we actually are capable of doing. So it's also about finding someone that can be realistic. But when you do have my kind of mindset in saying, okay, we need to be positive, then we're going to push the boundaries for what actually is possible for us to do. So I'm pushing Martin a bit, and he's going to drag me a bit down to being realistic as well. So a super, super good place to start with. And I promise you guys, you will never lose anything if being positive. Investors will think you are more sexy to talk with. New employees or new interviews, whatever, they will go in and say, okay, this was actually a really, really nice place to come into, because I can just feel the positive energy going into this room. So you never lose anything on it. Yeah. So how to quickly scale and develop your startup. So again, it's not like there is one kind of fix to do this, but I think it's about understanding what if you start at the point where you're talking about what you're good at and what you're not good at, then it's getting easier to also hire people that are going to solve the issues that you don't like to do, but also things you're not good at. So one of the things that we did in Customize from the start was that we decided to say, okay, we always need to hire people that are smarter or better to the job that they should do than me and Martin. Because if we're always hiring people that are under our level on the things that they should do, we will also get into a situation where we start to micromanage them. And that is the worst thing that could ever happen. It'd be a waste of my time, it would be a waste of the employees' time, and we also make some kind of really, really bad energy overall. And people will not develop themselves in it. So have the courage to hire people that are smarter than yourself, because then you're also getting into a process where people actually start taking care of the responsibility that you have, because they know that you hired them because they are more skilled than you at the job that they should do. So always think about saying when you are in a position as a founder, as a leader in a startup, it's about finding people that are willing to go the extra mile, and they are not going to do that if you're only hiring people you're going to overview all the time or you're going to micromanage them. Yeah, and I think it jumps a bit onto the next thing. If you not have the courage to hire people that are smarter than yourself, that could take over some of your tasks, general, you will not think like building a $1 billion company. So as I told from the start, we were having this idea about building a unicorn overall. And how are we capable of that? We are not there yet. I can also tell that we are way above the 100 million in valuation. But we are still not at the point where we are 1 billion company. But it's about having the mindset of saying, okay, what should we do to get to that point? Okay, we need to think like the ones that have already done it. So what did they do? What kind of process did they do? What about structure? What about people? If you're going to a $1 billion company, what kind of people have they hired? And I know when you're in the startup phase, you don't have the economics to actually buy into some heavy profiles. But you need to aim high. What is the worst that can happen? Talent people like you guys, you would love to work in a company where the mission is on a very high level and expectations to you are high as well. So it only attract more skilled people as well, and more skilled people is the baseline for making a big company as I see. Um, and when you have done that, as I wrote down in the bottom, it's about making structure and process your first priority. I think in the start of Customize, we actually when it was just me and Martin, I started building in Trello. I wanted to build like all structures. So I had an onboarding board in Trello. I had an exit boarding in Trello. That was even before we hired anyone. And I also had like what do we do when we got new hires? So we need to have computers. Where do we got computers? How is the list of all these things? We need to have follow-up meetings and so on and so on. But I started to making this kind of structure from the start because I was in the mindset from day one of saying, okay, what if we got 100 new employees tomorrow? What if we got 100 new customers tomorrow? We need kind of be able to put it in the force of saying, okay, what are we going to do if it's happening? It's of course not something you can be ready from the first day of. And I guess when you're going to be ready for it, that would be too late always. But it's more about if you start thinking in these kind of lanes, it will also change the mindset of saying, okay, we are also on the way to be a company that's going to hire 100 people a day. And I think mindset is just a thing that's happening in your head. So it's just about changing it. It doesn't cost anything to change it. It doesn't take any energy of you to change it. It's just about changing the view of the tunnel for yourself. So what do these things I've just talked about, what do they do for making a high performance culture as well? So leadership is like the most important part of it. And I think overall, as we also talked a bit into, when you're hiring people that are smarter than yourself, that is equally with trust. So some of the things that have worked really well for us, and also with some of the really strong profiles that we have got in, is saying, okay, we do have a really strong mission that is attractive for really talented people. good people that have worked in a nice company. We just hired a guy that had been working in Google for 8 years. He had been the industry lead for e-commerce in the Nordic countries. But he bought into the mission of the company and where we would like to go. He bought into saying, okay, we guys are fucking going to be a unicorn, right? Are we going to be it? Nobody knows so far, but at least we have the mindset of going there. So he bought into that, and the same view the rest of the organization. Actually, mission is the most common value we have in the company when we are collecting feedback. That is the one purpose we do agree the most in the company. So it tells also a bit about why people bought into this company and start. We have transparency. If you do have transparency in all the things you do, that also shows progression for the rest of the company. So, for example, when me and Martin at this point are in a process of raising new capital, it's not about we are telling about all the investor meetings we have and who we are having them with and how many money we are raising and what valuation. It's about just telling them, saying, okay, we are in the process of raising this money. That means that me and Martin will not be that much in the office. It means that we will have a lot of meetings, use the meeting room a lot whatsoever. But it also means that every time we're walking out of the door and saying, okay, we have a meeting, they are all like, yeah, go out and smash it today, right? So one thing is that they kind of feel like they are part of the process, but they also understand that we are 100% transparency of the things that are doing. That also just make kind of a fellow feeling for everybody saying, okay, we are all aware of what is happening and nobody is going to be surprised by that we're racing around tomorrow or in a month. So that is one thing. You also have the thing that I have learned from a good friend of mine called Mickey. So we were always talking about, it's not about having the highest IQ, it's about having a high EQ. So a high IQ do solve a lot of problems, definitely. But to be a really, really strong leader, from my point of view, it doesn't have anything to do with a high IQ. Yeah, it do help you, 100%. But an EQ is the way of understanding other people and how to play them good. So the better you are at understanding these people that you're working with, the more you are getting able to actually put all of their talents into action. So just remember when you're going out to hire new leaders or things about yourself when you are actually starting reflecting over what you can provide to a company, start thinking about how do my EQ actually go in and provide something for this team? How can I be this thing in the middle that are going to put things together? Because that's going to be the EQ. But EQ is also the one that is going to make people love to go to work every day. Remove negative energy. So when you remove that, of course, it's hard to do that all the way through. And of course, again, it's not like there is never a negative thing in customer at all. But I had a good friend of mine called Bassam. Bassam is the founder of Linus eHealth, and he just told me about if that people are in a position where they are having a negative energy or they have an issue, if they are not coming to a leader, but they are talking with the rest of the company, they are not talking with somebody that can solve these problems. So one of the things we do embrace a lot in customers is saying, okay, it's okay to have issues, it's okay to have something to be negative about, but you need to tell it to someone that could do something about it. If you're not doing that, we do have some other issues we need to talk about. So I think it's super important to start embracing some of these things, because if you're not embracing it, can be a super easy cultural things that will come into your company. And the reason why we come in is because we do have different kind of personalities and personal types we do have. We just create that some people are more polite to do these kind of things. But if you start talking these things and put some words on it, it will also be harder for them to going into this process. It's not that I'm saying this is never going to happen, but it's more like start to embrace some of these things, because we're back to the positive energy. If there is no negative energy in areas that is not something we can work with, do it, you will also get a culture where when people are working into the office, they are super happy about coming in every day. And I think I was a bit into the collect feedback. So we do use a couple of programs to collect feedback. So we do use something called Sawyers. It's a Danish company. It's a good friend of mine called Christian that has it. And yeah, we are too early to use it, basically. We were 15 when we started, and they need to be 25. We were rapid scaling in general, but it was also about from day one of showing that we actually do care about the people that work with us. It's super important for us that we need to understand when they are at a limit where they are getting maybe stressed, where are they when they're having too many tasks, when is it that there is something in the office that is not working that well. And it's the numbness, but it's also about showing the people in the company that we actually do care about them and we want to get the feedback from them. And then at last, I have this thing called Brothers and Sisters. And it's actually an American guy called Simon Sinek. I guess the most of you have heard of him. He is a super, super American profile, and it's not everything that he is telling that I do agree with. But he is having an interview about how to make people love their job. And the first 6 months when Customizer started, I heard this speech every day to work. It was 20 minutes every day. And what he's talking about is how do you make people fall in love with your job? It's not about giving them a high salary. It's not about saying good job one time. It's about all the small things that you're doing on the way. And when you do all these kind of small things, that could be a clap on the shoulder. It could also be just buying beer on Fridays. It could be saying, oh, did you have a good weekend? And stop up and start listening to them. Because if you are asking these questions, you need to stay there and hear what they have to say. You have asked it, right? And what he's telling is that it's not about making a culture where you have co-workers and employees. It's about making a company where you have brothers and sisters like they do in the army. So what does it mean? Is basically that if we are out on a long walk and let's say that something happens with your foot and you can't go on it anymore, maybe you can carry your own bag. I'm going to carry your bag. And the same will go the opposite way. I know that you will take my bag when it hurts on me. And that's kind of the culture I on the long term as well will love us to create and customize. We are on a journey and things are going really, really fast, and that's hard to do with a culture. But when we do have this kind of feeling for each other, it's about kind of more like a family. So we're willing to do anything for each other. And that also means that when I'm writing Fiona, that is in our head of customer success, on a Saturday night at 9 o'clock, because I got a message on intercom or whatever, she's like, I'm over it. Okay, we just need to get these things done. And I'm like, when she's doing things like that, it also make me want to go like not just an extra mile, but go the 2 extra mile just for her. So I think I think you guys should go in and watch this one because it's really, really a good thing. And I think having the mindset of establishing a culture where you have a brothers and sisters, that also means that these guys are willing to do whatever it takes and die with the boots on the field. And if you do that, you will be able to beat all your competitors at some point because the stamina in the team will be like forever. Yeah. And I have been into a couple of these already, but this is some of the questions I do ask ourselves today. I actually talked with Fiona with it today, but I also talked with a guy last week about he has a SaaS company as well. And it's about starting having the mindset of saying, what do we do if things go really, really good? And we need to have that mindset of saying, okay, what if it goes well? So start asking yourself, saying, okay, what is happening if we're going to have 100 new employees start tomorrow? What are we going to do? Do we have the structure for it? Do we have the process for it? Nope, we do either. We don't have it. But it's about starting to getting into that mindset. That means that every time we're doing something in Customize, we are starting to build it like there could start 100 tomorrow. So when we do first time a onboarding of a new employee, it's about saying, okay, so the whole structure for this one, can we write it down? Can we make a Trello board or a Monday board or whatever we're doing it in? Can we start making that down? So next time we're having a new one that starts, okay, can we outperform it a bit? Can we ask the new ones that start saying, okay, what can we do better? And they're like, yeah, there was something like that, or I missed some information about the product. Okay, perfect. So I actually think today we do have an amazing onboarding. It's about, I think it's 10 small speeches with different areas in the business to getting into understand the product, to understand the culture. They have a talk with Martin. They have a talk with me. So it's kind of getting into the mindset of what what we want to do, feel the energy, but also to understand product. So start off thinking about this, about how do we get 100 employees tomorrow. The next thing is to say, if you are funding back or you are scaling up, and let's say you have some extra money, let's say you get 10 million euros tomorrow and you have 12 months to use it, what are you going to do, right? And I think the same with the next one, 100 new demo requests. This is our questions we are asking ourselves every day. What are we going to do if we do this? And I think it all turns down to the last questions, which is what are they doing in Silicon Valley? And I actually, one of the first interview I did back with finance, it was about this one. And it's not that I don't respect the Nordic competitors we do have, or some of the European, but I'm like, in Silicon Valley, they do have the most money accessible. They have, in average, the best talent in the whole world. So they do have basically all the possibilities to win over me. And I just want to have a mindset from the start saying, okay, how do I going to beat these guys? Yeah, sorry. So this is about starting to put yourself in the position of saying, yeah, I know that Danish startups do have a great mindset as well. But I guess there's nothing wrong in saying, okay, Silicon Valley, that is the top. I also sometimes say, okay, what do they do in London? What do they do in New York? And I know there is companies all around the world that are doing really well. But I just think about saying, okay, if you start putting yourself into this question, you also get a really, really good mindset on saying, okay, how are we going to be the best in the market? Wow, sorry. I'm back. So shortly, just about to talk a bit into what I've just talked about in when we did fundraise as well, and some of the key takeaways that we had in the process where we did, and it's about three mistakes that we clearly made from the start, and also three key learnings. So shortly about the mistakes, it's not something that I'm talking that much about, so they don't have a slide themselves. But we did start on the process last time we were raising money too late. So we actually thought that we had it all under control. But we simply just started a bit too late. And that means that in the end, there was a lot of pressure on saying, okay, we need to get things done. And that is where you're getting under pressure as a founder when you do have, I think we had about 15 employees at that point, and you're starting to take the wrong decision as well, because you get under so much pressure. You need to figure something out, and you're starting not to taking the best and most well thought decisions. And oh wow, I can see it's not updated. Yeah, but no matter what, that just basically means that you are getting at a point where your business is not getting the most value out of the fund, the round that they're raising, but also that it's just getting hard to move the company ahead. So into the three key learnings where we had was saying, okay, raise before you need the money. That is definitely a thing that I only can recommend. So I think it's about saying, okay, fuck the valuation. It's not that important. Yeah, I was in the process of saying, okay, we need to get the most out of this round. We need to drag it as long as we can, and just like when we do have $1 on the account, that's when we need to push the button. But it's just like all the frustration in that process is not worth it. So don't put yourself into a situation where you lose all the capability of negotiating in it. Because when you don't have any more money, you're in a process where you need to say, okay, hell yeah, we just take it no matter how the deal is. And believe me, both funds and business angels, they will smell that. They will know it when we get to that point. And then this one, cash is king, and it's not that something that Robin Dennis, one from our board, have founded, but it's more like it's a super good saying for saying, okay, yeah, just take the cash, because having cash on the account, that's making you into a position where you can take the right decision. And it's just like saying it's better for you to get cashed in, get money on the account, and then you can just roll it out later on. And you can, as we saw it, it was more like saying, okay, we did have runway actually for half a year or almost a year right now to the next running round. but we are in the process of saying, okay, but what if we are raising money today? Then we have like 10 months that we can double up the power and get ahead of the curve one more time. So I think this is about thinking that in the end, especially when you are in the SaaS space where it costs a lot of money and you often have a high burn rate, just think that cash is the best thing you can have, and it do remove a lot of concerns for yourself. And if you want to have a more valuable company, I think that the best thing that have happened for us afterwards is that we are really, really strong at our unit economics. So we deeply, deeply understand where is the value in our company. And it also means that when we are in negotiating with these kind of different funds, we also understand what is our company worth and why is it worth it. Because it's easy to go into kind of Dragon's Den and say, okay, I'm a valuation of 100 million. But let me tell you why. This is why we are 100 million worth, and this is how the rest of the market look like. And yeah, you can get into a situation where it's not everybody that are willing to invest in it, but that's just how it is. So I can see I will push the presentation a bit because we're running out of time. So just shortly about this one, is not the most beauty one, but I think that the virtual mindset is one of the key factors that we have done ourselves. And it is not to do what is saying in the picture. So what people see is not what you have to have in your mindset. So for me and Martin, all the things that people don't see is actually all the things that we are trying to turn out saying this is actually all the good things. So having hard work, having late night, having sacrifices, doing these things is actually what is going to make the success. And to start saying that this is actually good things, that is where you're starting to see a process of where Monday actually can get the best day out of the week. So I think to take some of these things where we often are talking them as hard things, taking them out and saying, oh, this is actually really good things for ourselves. Yeah, so a last free best advice, I will keep it to 2 minutes. This is 3 rules that I created for myself. So first one is the 90-10% rule. Smart people ask the right questions, as I say, and you are smart and you just need to get in the right direction. So what I do is that 90% of the time I would like to be with people that are pushing me forward. It doesn't mean that I can't be with people that not necessarily giving me something that have something to do with my business. It can also be just something personal, but I just want to be with people that are pushing myself ahead of it. That make me reflect over my life and who I am and what I am capable of doing. And it's just that when you're doing these kind of things, you're also getting to start to ask yourself the right questions. So I think this is actually a really, really good thing for me, and it's something that I started for a year ago to live up to. And believe me, it do change things because you are the sum of the people overall you spend the time with. I do have the 80% rule. That 80% is enough. I am not the most structured person overall. You can see there have been a spelling mistake or two, but it's about having the mindset of saying, okay, 80% is actually enough in a lot of the coincidences. So when we are building something, we're not building something 100% because 100% is not what people often need. Yeah, there will be somebody that will like it to be 80%, to be 100% in some cases, but yeah, we can do that. It just takes too much time to make the last 20%. And then at last, always dream bigger than anybody else. The only ones that is going to put a limit on you is only yourself. So just remember that when you're going out and you're having this dream, there will always be people that are testing the dreams and not believing in it. But the day where you have achieved some of the things, they will come back and they will say, okay, yeah, that's fucking awesome. So I think about having this mindset of dreaming big as we do with saying, okay, we need to beat our competitors in the US, in the Silicon Valley, is what have worked the best for me because there's no limitation of what you can do. And there have been plenty of things in the last decade that have showed that this is actually possible.